Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose with The Examiner. With me today, Steve'Luke Lukather of Toto, legendary guitarist, noted producer and songwriter, and according to Don Felder, one hell of a funny guy. How are you doing, man?
When did Felder tell you that?
A couple weeks ago.
Well, you know, actually we just did a charity thing for the other night. We played together. It was fun. I was playing the part of Joe Walsh in Hotel California. It was a lot of fun for me.
Was that at the Christmas pudding thing or something?
Yeah, the KLOS thing in L.A. At the Nokia Theater. Did a bunch of all-star. It was an all-star band with a bunch of different people. It was really fun.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're listed in the dictionary under prolific. From Leo Sayer and Boz Scaggs to Michael Jackson and Alice Cooper to Don Henley and, of course, as we just mentioned, now Don Felder because you were on his new album.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff, man. I mean, I haven't really thought about it that much, although I have started my book, about my life and times in the studios. Got a few chapters in. It'll probably take me a few years to do this because you're talking about thousands of records and 36 years of my life.
Oh, absolutely.
But, it's really interesting stuff. I've had it's been an extraordinary life. I mean, I've started just thinking about it, and it's like, wow. I mean, I kind of scratched my head going, did I really do all this? Apparently I did. I don't know. I was talking with Steve Picaro last night. We went out and had dinner, my fellow Toto, and we were just laughing about our life, when we were kids, and all of a sudden memories started flooding back, because everybody remembers different stuff.
Right.
And it just kind of, oh, wow, I remember that. Wow, remember this? And it's like, I think it's really been, I'm kind of reflecting in a real positive way, end of the year, restart and all that stuff. You kind of look back at your life and go, wow, it's really been, I've really been lucky. I had an amazing life so far. Absolutely. I hope we don't all hurl into the sun on Friday, but because I got next year is looking really good too. So
yeah, there's a lot of great stuff coming next year, including the new album I want to talk about in just a minute. But
yeah,
it's funny you were saying that because we were actually playing a game yesterday at work to tell you how bored we were while listening to the radio, and my boss declared Foreigner the winner because they played him on the radio 3 times in one afternoon, and I told her, oh, not so fast. We just heard Toto, The Tubes, Stevie Nicks, and Michael Jackson back to back. She said, what's your point? I said, Steve Lukather's the winner. He played on every single one of those.
I am the winner. Thank you.
So,
yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of people don't really realize all the stuff that we've had. Well, Toto's going into his 35th anniversary next year.
Right.
Since our first album came out. And the collective, we're putting together this, retrospective or whatever.
Right.
Of our compilation of, all of us combined, what our total is for the amount of records that we've played on. It's something like 8,000.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And for everybody in the band, and every major star and every style of music with the exception of classical music. It's kind of daunting to look at. I don't think there's any other band that's ever come, made that happen,
Right.
That had both,
Well, that's funny because I said after that happened yesterday, I said, so in lieu of your ubiquitous body of work, I've decided to create a new game for music because we have one for the movies. It's going to be 6 Degrees of Steve Lukather. So,
oh, hey, man, it may not even be 6.
Yeah, exactly. With you, I probably don't have to get much more beyond 1 or 2 layers.
Well, I don't know. I'm not trying to, stroke myself, and certainly not, but it's just, since I've been looking up stuff, getting information for this book I'm putting together, it's kind of, I'm looking at all this compilation of names and going, wow, a lot of stuff, a lot of different artists from a lot of different, in the 80s, especially when because I really don't do sessions much anymore. It's been 20 years since I do them on a regular basis. I might do a guest appearance here and there, but that's not really sessions,
Right.
That era is gone, unfortunately. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right, but and it's funny because, you being somewhat of a low-key, under-the-radar guitar god, if you will, but a guitar god nonetheless, you have a lot in common with Jimmy Page, because a lot of people don't realize that Jimmy Page started out doing a shit ton of session work and doing production and songwriting as well for artists other than himself.
It's funny. The first time I ever met Jimmy, he took me aside and he said, "Look, man," he goes, "you should be really proud of being a session player, because those guys." And there was a big guitar event at the Guitar Center. And he says, "Look, the guys out there don't really understand what that is," and pointing to everybody else He goes, "I was a session player. I'm John Paul Jones." And I'm looking at Jimmy Page saying this with a little tear in my eye going, "Can I tell people you said this to me?" I was very moved because he's one of my heroes,
You've been so busy this year with G3, with Satch and Vi, the Toto tour, Ringo, the Toto
Ringo, yes.
30 other projects. When did you find time to shoehorn in the new studio album, Transition?
I don't, you can see I'm up really early in the morning. I started the album last December, and then in between the 5 different tours I did last year, I was working on the record. This is what I do. I have all this. I'm clean mind, body, and soul, and I have a lot of energy, and I use it. I think maybe it's just because as I'm getting older and I want to get as much done as I can.
Right.
And I've had these wonderful opportunities to do all this stuff, and I was able to manage my time to be able to do all of it. And I'm looking back on, well, I didn't sit on the couch scratching my nuts watching television all year, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. And very, very busy man. And perhaps that's why the name of the album is Transition, is you have sort of changed your lifestyle, who you are, what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, man. Listen, I've been on the road for 36 years, and then there comes a point where there's just like one hangover too many. I just woke up one day and I said, I need to be healthy. I went through a really awful period of my time, to be quite honest with you. A lot of personal, emotional stuff that was off the gig, it was just my life. And, it catches up with you. He's trying to drown your sorrows, so to speak. And one day I just said, this is enough. I'm too old for this shit. And I stubbed out the cigarette, chucked the beer away, and it was years ago. And that was the end of it. I didn't have to do any big, rehab or AA or anything. I just, I said, I'm done with this crap. And I started working out, eating organic. It changed my whole life, in complete 180. And I'm so much better for it. I feel great. I'm focused. I'm happy. I lost 30 pounds. I got the gleam in my eye back. I had to make some major changes in my life. I went through divorce, lost my mom, so that makes me the orphan. And a lot of other personal business things changed. So it was a massive upheaval in my life to go drag myself all the way down to the bottom and pull myself back up again over the last several years. And that's the transition, really. That's what it means, from darkness into the light. Sometimes you gotta live the blues to play it, Right. And so that's kind of, I've had a great life. All my turmoil was personal stuff.
Right.
And I don't really want to get too deep into it, but it was very painful, to say the least. And it made me take a hard look at myself, and I had to be honest with myself. Look, I got two generations of kids. I got two kids under 5, So I need to be around. I need to be focused. And I got to tell you something, man. I don't miss it. If I did, I'd probably still do it. But, the thing is, it wasn't hard for me to stop. It was a change of mindset. And then I feel like I got my focus back as a player and as a writer and as a human being. And I'm really loving life, and I'm getting so much done in a positive way. So that's all I can say. And apparently my doctor says I'm healthier than I was when I was 30. So this is good news. Absolutely.
And the music's sounding good, and that's what matters.
Well, if I'm trying, that's the thing. Is like a lot of guys don't try that hard when they get older. Like they just, chuck a record out so I can go play the hits and get paid.
Yeah, phone it in.
I really dug deep.
Well, yeah, Transition, you and CJ Vanston, your longtime partner in crime there, you guys gathered some amazing talents for this new album.
They're my friends, man. Yeah. My friends. The people and go, you want to play on the record? Yeah, come on down. They show up the next day. I'm living in L.A. It's a lot easier than if I lived in, somewhere else.
True, but there's a great cross mix. Because you've got, newer guys, new relatively speaking, like Chad Smith, we talked about, but you got legends like Leland Sklar on there, who's like a bass god that nobody knows outside of the industry and whatnot. And then he's one of my oldest friends too. When I first started out in the studios when I was like 18, 19 years old, he was one of the first guys I met who really helped me a lot in my career. We've stayed very, very close as friends through the years, so I had to have Lee. We even have Phil Collin from Def Leppard on there. That sort of surprised me, seeing him in the mix, because...
Well, he sang on my last 2 records, because he's friends with me and CJ, and he works with CJ on all this stuff. CJ's written some stuff with Def Leppard and stuff. So, he'd be in the studio, and I'd come in, and CJ go like, yeah, I got Phil to sing on the chorus on this. I'm like, oh, so Phil's a buddy, man. I love him to death, man. He's a massive talent and a really sweet guy. He's got a great voice.
So he was just lending his voice to the project then?
Yeah, he just popped in and sang on a couple things. He's amazing. It's really lovely of him to do that. I owe him a big favor for doing that.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I tell people, he was even on a couple of Van Halen records. They're like, what the hell would he be doing on Van Halen record? Eddie's there, and it's like his voice.
That background vocals.
Exactly. So,
well, no, you understand something. Those guys are really good friends of mine.
Right.
Just like when Phil popped by the studio, for me, if I'm over there, which Ed and Al and I go back 30 some odd years, and close friends. If I was just hanging or popped over to say hey and hang out, and they go, come out here and sing the third part. I would, it wasn't like it wasn't like I'm playing guitar on a band.
Right.
That's ludicrous to think about. But Eddie and I played together on a bunch of different stuff. He played on my Christmas record, he played on my first solo album. We played live together a few times. Well, yeah. I played with Van Halen a couple times live, guitar. Probably one of the few guys that has. And I just think the world of those guys. I mean, come on.
Well, that's that old
rock
thing.
and roll bands of all time.
Yeah, that's that old thing. Somebody actually asked Eddie one time, what's it like to be a guitar god? He said, I don't know. Ask
Now,
Steve.
wait a second. This is the Wikipedia urban myth crap. I don't think I know Ed's always been very kind to me, and we're close friends and all that. And he's always said nice stuff. I don't think that actually really went down. But, it's kind of like one of those rumors, like somebody saying I got a 12-inch cock or something like that. You go, it's not really true, but it's a great rumor,
Exactly, but it's nice to think about that other people see you in that light.
Like I said, if you're going to have, there's a lot of nasty rumors about that aren't true. But, if there's going to be an untruth one, that's a nice one to have. It's not even remotely true, but, it's funny. It's funny to hear it.
Yeah, but clearly the respect's there among those who are considered the noted guitar gods. Obviously, if Satch and Vi called you out to do G3.
Yeah, I was very honored. Joe's a very dear friend, and Steve as well. I was like a little apprehensive going, are you sure that I'm like the right guy? But they've had so many of the obvious choices to be the third guy. I think I was a wild card. And they dig me. I brought a little something different in. But with great humility, because those guys are so brilliant and so good that it's staggering, really. I was very honored to be there. And John Petrucci, I did one with him, too. Another amazing guitar player. So, standing up there. But really, at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of 15-year-old kids playing classic rock songs at the end of the night, just having a laugh. Everybody's individual sets are a little more serious and so very diverse when you hear them back to back. So it was a great deal of fun for me, and I'm honored to have my name on the roster of one of the G's.
Absolutely. So talking about the new album, though, Transition, I gotta tell you what I love about the album is I love how the lyrical themes really fit the music. Like immediately on Judgment Day, when I first started listening to it before the lyrics kicked in, before we got to the chorus, I was literally picturing this barren setting with like dark clouds sort of sliding by with that like time-lapse photography. I guess I see everything in video format.
Yeah, well, the person I was writing the song about is very dark, and so it's, there's a lot of darkness in the world. We live in this internet world. I think the first two songs of the album, that and Creep Motel, which is about internet haters. So there's a lot of people that just sit in their house, man, and they just don't have a life, or they really have a down and out life, and they want to project their own anger and frustrations onto people that they may think have a better life than them or whatever. Or some people are just messed up in the head. I think we're seeing more and more mental illnesses really showing its ugly head right now. I don't think it's ever been more apparent than this week. My God, I got little kids in school, and people lose their mind. They just sit and they lost their jobs, so they're sitting in their house in front of a computer, hating on people. And I'm not so sure this is a good, healthy way to get your frustrations out. Because I'm really sensitive. People write really horrible, nasty things about me, and they do sometimes. Everybody has haters. That's the thing, and no one goes unscathed. There's like, God.com has haters. It's like, you go, okay, where do you draw the line here, man? My shrink was like, you reading stuff about yourself is like cutting yourself,
Yeah.
So, there's no need for it because it's there, but sometimes you can't help but look or somebody throws it at you. You just kind of... So I was writing about like the frustrations of dealing with all the insanities of the world.
And CJ said you guys actually sort of come up with the lyrical stuff after the music, and it ripped. That's probably why it fits so well, because on Creep Motel, which is a perfect way to put what you just said, though, you have that nice, dirty, sort of swaying, almost sleazy groove feel to it.
Yeah, it's a nice little shuffle.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote a lot of the words myself, and then we come in and edit it together. We come up with a title, or on Creep Motel, Fee Wavell from the Tubes came in and helped me. He came up with that title, which I thought was brilliant.
Nice.
And we've been writing songs together since Talk to You Later in 1980. Just you write about stuff that you're living and feeling. I don't party, I don't do anything, go out to the club. I'm not out trying to pick up chicks and stuff. I'm a little old for this stuff. I'm writing about real life and the way all the things I've been through and how I actually really feel. I'm not trying to write the proverbial hit single to get on top 40 radio, because it's just, what is that,
Right. But there are some songs on there that really have some radio legs, too, that really stick with you.
Well, feel free to play it, my brother.
Absolutely. Now, as a guitarist, you started out playing with all the toys and effects, but as you sort of grew as a musician, I know you stripped a lot of that away, even as music itself was becoming saturated with more technology. So now looking back over 36 years, where do you stand with all of that now at this point in your career?
Well, you got to understand, we all started out just plugging into an amp when I was, single digits. My first gigs that I ever got paid for was just the guitar into an amp. as technology rose, like, when I started doing sessions, there was the first, pedals, and the first, you had all these little little boxes, you plug in this or that here and there. But, in the 80s was the decade of excess in every possible way. All the lifestyle, the gear, the sounds, the hair, the clothes. I mean, it all went with it. And because I was a session player playing on all these hit records, there's certain sounds that all of a sudden you play a sound on a hit record, and then everybody wants that sound. That's what they would hire you for. That's what they ask you to do. Some of these choices that were made were not my own. And yeah, I agree. Some of it was just way over the top. Like everything else, when something is new, you want a lot of it, It's like if you have a big, favorite chocolate cake, homemade, and you start eating it, it's great, but by the time you realize you're about halfway through eating it, it's making you sick. It's not unlike that, just the whole thing, the drugs, the whole, everything was crazy then, And then, as I grow up and all that fell away, I mean, unfortunately, nothing ever dies on the internet. People dig up some drunken jam or something like that, and it was never meant for public consumption. And you didn't even know you're being filmed, and then people judge it like it was yesterday, even though it was 25 years ago or whatever.
Right.
So all these things, they follow you around, but that's not the way. I mean, my sound is really pure on this record. I plugged right into my new guitar with the passive pickups into a Bogner amplifier with a volume pedal, and any reverbs or stuff like that was all done inside the mix. You know what I mean? It's a plug-in or something. For those, not technically right. I mean, it was done after the fact. Right. So, I mean, I had the purest sound that I possibly could have. And that's kind of the way I live my life, what I put into my body. So it comes out, I'm hopefully, is much more pure than it used to be.
You could go plug into Eddie Van Halen or Steve Vai or anybody's rig and plug any guitar player in there, and regardless of their setup, it's still going to sound like you because the...
Oh, man, absolutely. And I have, and there's no magic guitar or magic amp, man. No. I played Jeff Beck's guitar. It doesn't make me play like Jeff Beck. I wish it did, and vice versa. I mean, I have plugged into Eddie. I played, we're all friends, we played jam together and whatnot. But, a great gear is helpful, it's a great tool, but it doesn't make you play. You can't give a kid a 59 Les Paul and expect him to play, come up with Jimmy Page licks. He doesn't know how to play.
Nowadays,
it's a great thing to have, but it doesn't create the talent. The human being creates the noise that comes out.
Yeah, well, not anymore with auto-tune and all that.
Well, that's a whole other. I love the Grammy Awards nominating people that can't sing.
Exactly.
It's really. I mean, we're really dumbing it down. It's like when more people know about Honey Boo Boo than they do who's running the government. We know that we're in the end times. I mean, reality TV. I mean, this is really the fall of the Roman Empire, man. Instead of watching the lions rip apart the Christians, we're watching dumb people on television just slowly emotionally die while we're eating popcorn. When I say we, I don't mean me. I mean we're human United States consciousness. I'd like to believe people are smarter than this, but these shows are they get such huge ratings. I don't know if people think it's funny or if they're really into it or if it's just that's their idea of entertainment now.
I think individually people are brighter than they are collectively in this nation. I think when they were talking about the end of the world coming at the end of this week, it had less to do with an asteroid hitting than just that social slide that we're taking.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, man, I hope something wonderful happens. I mean, somebody posted something really funny on my Facebook that it showed it turned out to be an Aztec calendar, but it looked like the Mayan calendar, and next to it was an Oreo cookie, which looked very much like it. And it says the Oreo cookie says we're going to live, So you have to take this. So I mean, yes. I mean, are we poised for natural disasters to happen around the world? Yes, I think we are. I mean, I don't think I think we'd see the meteor coming by now if it was going to be here. We'd be able to look out in the sky and go, well, here it comes, because it's only a few days away.
And, of course, at that point, Obama would say, don't worry, I got this. We're going to divvy it all up. Each person in the world is going to get a small chunk.
Oh, wow. I don't know if that's really what the concept is. But at that point, I don't think money really matters. I mean, there may come a point where all this debt and all these things that are so unrealistic that we would never pay it back. I mean, they just keep adding to it. We've painted ourselves into the proverbial fiscal corner.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how, what somebody told me, if they stopped spending a dime and just paying off the interest of the loans that we have would take about 800 years without even touching the principle of the mega trillion. So, I mean, that puts things in perspective of what the fuck are we supposed to do about all this now? Where does it end? Do you have to restart everybody when then nobody has anything? How's that going to work? Everybody's invested in everybody else. So actually, you're talking about the end of the financial world.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen because the rich would never let that happen. The mega rich, I'm not talking about rich. I'm talking about mega rich, the ones you don't hear about. Ask me anything. For politics, I'm sick to death of
my God, no, trust me, I get it completely.
I'm peace and love. I'm the peace and love party. Let's everybody groove, okay?
And you got to have a sense of humor. That's really all
I think I should run. If there's a third party, should be the peace and love party. I could fix all this stuff in about 3 days, but nobody would listen to me.
I'm with you, absolutely. So,
okay, let's carry on about the music.
All right, so as we've already established, you've played on or in some way contributed to like over 1,500 some odd albums, probably far more than that.
Yeah.
But
I stopped counting.
Do you remember the absolute first album where you went in and recorded your first part professionally?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, the first one where I got an album credit with like the real studio guys. Like I was on there with Dean Parks and Larry Carlton and all the hip guys at the time in the 70s. It was a guy named Terrence Boylan, who's John Boylan's brother, the guy that produced the first Boston album. Mm-hmm. And I still have it. He hired me. I was just a zit-faced little teenager, and from that, that started the ball rolling. And I will always be thankful to Mr. Boylan. Boona was his nickname. He hired me for my first real released album. I was doing sessions back in the day before the machines took over. They used to hire musicians to play on demos and stuff. So it was kind of like being in the minor leagues for a baseball team or something. Like you get brought up to the majors once you've earned your stripes or whatever. They scout you out from the minors and bring you up. That was what it was like doing demo sessions. I got practical experience prior to being brought up to the big league, so to speak. And that was kind of how it all happened. I had a lot of mutual friends, obviously going to school with the Picaro brothers, with Jeff and Steve and Dan when we were still in high school, and Paige. And then I met David Foster and Jay Gray and Lee Ritenour, Carlton, and all those guys. They kind of really helped my career, and everything sort of blew up. Right out of high school, joined Boz Scaggs' band, which became Toto, and started doing sessions all at the same time. And I blinked, and 35 years went by.
Well, and along that run, you've appeared on some of my all-time favorite albums, including long before you did the Trash album with Alice Cooper in '89, I think it was. 1978, you were on From the Inside, even co-wrote.
Oh, yeah, I wrote a couple songs for that, too, with Bernie Taupin and Alice and Foster. That was a great record, man.
I love that.
That's played with Dick Wagner, man, who's the guitar player, and he's actually a friend still. That was a fun record, man. I was just like 21 years old when I did that.
Yep, Nurse Rosette, I think, is one of the ones you co-wrote. And then you played guitar on Sirius, which is probably one of my top 5 favorite Alice Cooper tunes. I love that guitar.
I co-wrote that song, man.
Yeah, so...
That's me and Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick on that.
And nice segue, because the following year you played on, you were on Voices, I guess it was, on the Dream Police album.
I was.
How did you end up?
That was kind of weird because they don't need me. Rick's a great guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
I think they just wanted a different flavor or something like that. So I was very honored because I love Cheap Trick. They're great, one of the great bands. I think they're seriously underrated, to be quite honest with you. Robin Zander's voice is incredible. Rick writes great songs. So, whatever. They're doing well, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. They're one of the bands that still, as prolific as they are, never got the just desserts that they deserved.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of funny about credit and where people give credit where credit is due. Mm-hmm. I don't think that really exists, and you can't really dwell on it. You look at Cheap Trick; they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Deep Purple's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Patti Smith is. Patti Smith is. Who the fuck is this chick? She's singing a Bruce Springsteen song. I mean, what they deem hip and valid to me, when you see somebody in the Hall of Fame who's struggling to play a bar chord still on the guitar, you're going scratching your head, going, it just evades me. I don't get it, and I probably never will. But then again, Toto was the only band to ever turn down the cover of Rolling Stone, so that pissed off Winter pretty good. So he erased us from the history of rock. We're not even mentioned at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're not even in the computer system.
That's funny. Well, and nice.
Now that's a punk rock move. See, the Clash or the Sex Pistols never did that. They sold out the man. We didn't.
Speaking of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you again two of the people.
I played with 75 people in the Hall of Fame.
Including two that went in this year, or going in this year, Donna Summer, whom we recently lost, and, of course, Randy Newman.
That makes it 77.
Yeah. Not that I don't love them, but how do they go in the Hall of Fame before actual rock bands like Chicago and even Kiss?
Because Jan Wenner doesn't like certain people that will never be in. So how valid is it if one man's opinion is what makes it all? I mean, if you're a sports guy and you hit more home runs than anybody, or you make some sort of huge stat, even if you're an asshole, you get in.
True.
But it's Jan Wenner's world, man, and really, it's not the people that are in it should be in it. But there's some of their choices these days. I heard somebody told me, remember, that like when they get to the 80s and they have to start letting people in, they're going to stop the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So bands like Journey and Foreigner and all the other stuff that even have the stats to get in won't be able to.
Weird.
But anyway, I could go on. I've had too much coffee, so I'm going to rant on.
Well, we mentioned.
You know what I mean? It's like whatever. I've won awards. We've all won lots of things. It's nice to win stuff, but the real award is to have people come out and see you and have a long career. That's all I need. That's what satisfies me, and I'm very honored to have an audience that comes out to see me and my band and the various configurations, all the cool things that I get to do. So. Really, I don't need the big stroke.
And just the fact that whenever you walk in a studio, whether it's yours or somebody else's, you've got these other friends who are just happen to be legendary, who are dying to play with you and be around you and stuff. That speaks more to your talent and
well, thanks. I mean, I guess Miles Davis likes me, so I mean that's more important to me than he does. I mean, all these other. If you look at the list of artists we played with.
Oh, yeah.
All those people liked us. So if one angry Rolling Stone guy doesn't like us, I guess I'd rather go with where I'm at. I don't. God bless. I'm not angry. I mean, you can be angry when you're young. I'm not angry. I'm like, I'm just happy to be here, brother. I really am. I've been given ego strokes and awards and stuff that probably didn't deserve. And what is that? And I mean, it's very nice. It's a beautiful gesture, but it doesn't. Wake up in the morning with my dick inside of a Grammy or something like that.
Now, we mentioned a little bit earlier the Fee Waybill connection, and when you ask people about the Tubes, at least more recent era, the first two songs they think of are "Talk to You Later" and "She's a Beauty," both of which you co-wrote.
Yes,
but you also
played on.
Yeah, and you also played on Fee's first solo album, which I absolutely love.
That should have been a big record, man. Capitol dropped the ball on that. I don't know why. There were some really great songs on that and really great production.
Foster
did a great job.
You're Still Laughing is still one of my favorite songs ever. So
that's neat that you know that. That's cool.
But and then, of course, growing up for me in my era, because I'm just a few years younger than you, not by many, but Kiss was my band growing up. And you...
we have the same manager now.
But you played, and I've known this all these years, like in the back of my head, like being on the Alice Cooper and all this other stuff. It's like, oh, cool, Steve. It's just you just fly under the radar. It's like, oh, cool, Steve's on this, but you just don't think about it. But you played not just on Peter Criss's solo album at the time, you played on all of his solo albums.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, back in the 70s, late 70s, when they did the whole, the Four Faces solo albums. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did that. That was the first one I did, and I did a few after that.
Yeah, Out of Control. And
he's a nice guy. I mean, he's a nice cat, as I remember.
So, but then you also, and you did the same with Alice on one of the tribute albums, Humanary Stew. You did Welcome to My Nightmare. Then on the Kiss one, you and Tommy Shaw, along with Tim Bogart and Jay Shellen, did Love Gun. Me
and Tommy Shaw have done a few things, but we've never actually met. It's kind of like me and Warren Haynes. We've done a couple records this year. As a matter of fact, he invited me out to play with the Mule, man. I couldn't do it because I had just gotten home that night with my kids and stuff. But there's a few people that I'd like to meet that I've actually worked with on the same records but never met in flesh.
But that's I got to tell you now, having listened to Love Gun since 1977, I still can't listen to that song anymore since I heard that without waiting for those guitar bits that you added on that. So
I don't. I got to be honest with you. Don't remember, man. I was in and out of there in 15, 20 minutes.
Probably. But that's the magic of what you do, though, and everybody says this that I've talked to where your names come up, is you come in, this ball of light and sunshine and laughter, lay your shit down, and you're gone. Because you just...
Yeah, I mean, that happened a lot. I mean, I was in and out. That's what we got paid for. I mean, it's like one of those things, your chops are finally honed at that point. I'm in the studio, 14 to 16 hours a day, every day for, 10, 15 years, anything thrown at me is like I got it done quickly, and it was just instinctual to do it.
Everybody remembers Eddie Van Halen for being on the Thriller album. What they fail to realize is that you were the principal guitarist there, or at least one of them anyway. Eddie played on one track, the #1 selling album of all time. So, congratulations.
Yeah, well, I was kind of pissed off we didn't get any love on that one because Toto had a lot to do with the Thriller album.
Right.
For example, on Beat It, there was Jeff Porcaro on drums, and myself. I mean, we had to put. Eddie played a solo. That was all he did. And I played the bass part, I played all the riff parts, and all the rhythm guitar parts. Yeah. And Michael sang. Like Human Nature is a Toto song, written by us, arranged by us, and everybody played on it with Michael singing. The McCartney duet was all of us on it. And everybody gets all, we're always the Also Killed was. If you had a jeweler's eye, you can see the credits on the record. But,
right.
So we don't get there's no fanfare to it, even though we were on Album of the Year like 3 years in a row. We gave away the Grammy Award to Quincy as the best producer. And we had a lot of, there's just people just like, they don't give us any acknowledgement whatsoever. And I'm not crying sour grapes or nothing, but we were part of one of the biggest records of all time. And not just like as a set, I played one little rhythm part on one little song or something. It was like, we were all over that record. And then David and Steve, the band was all over the record, whether I was or not. I mean, still, everybody was involved.
No, you guys. And
Eddie did a solo for 30 seconds, and that's all anybody wants to talk about. And it's a great solo. Don't get me wrong. Ed's one of my closest friends, so I'm not putting him down. They just go immediately name value.
Right. But you guys were, throughout the years, on so many seminal rock and roll, and not just rock, pop, all genres, pretty much albums. And then, of course, recently you popped in, laid down some stuff for Don Felder on his new album, Road to Forever. But coming full circle, it was the Beatles that struck that chord for you, and here you are working with Ringo.
I know. It's a great honor, and he's become a great friend as well. I really admire him, how he lives his life. And if that's 72 years old, bring it on, because he looks like he's 40, and he's so full of life and energy and wisdom and humor. You just can't help but fall in love with this guy. I mean, he's just like the coolest guy ever. And we have this incredible band with Todd Rundgren and Richard Page, Greg Raleigh, Mark Rivera, and Greg Bissonette. I mean, we just get up and we laugh and play, and everybody plays great on everybody else's stuff. It's a great set list. It's so much fun to do. And being around Ringo all the time, it's just inspiring. He's just a really, really wonderful cat, man. And a great musician.
Well, that brings us to our last question then. Now, CJ said he's had a bucket list career. Is there anyone you still have on your own bucket list that you really want to work with?
I'd like to do something with Peter Gabriel sometime, and we've met several times, and as a matter of fact, but a month or so ago at the Hollywood Bowl again. But, he's got a great guitar player, David Rhodes, who does some really cool stuff. But he's one of those guys that I've just admired since the 70s with Genesis, all the way up through to his solo career. He's just somebody I deeply admire, his artistry and his genius, really. I mean, there's not too many people throw that word around, but I think Peter Gabriel's got the genius level thing going. And I've always admired everything that he does. And the voice, what can you say? Jesus, absolutely. One of the best ever. So, I mean, he's one of the few guys that I would like to do something with, which is weird to say because I've had the chance to work with so many of my heroes and learn from them. It's really amazing.
Oh yeah, 3 of the 4 Beatles you've worked with, I believe, at this point. So, but
yeah.
Steve Lukather, I don't even know what name to put beside it because you have been one of those quiet heroes of rock and roll for as long as I can remember.
You're a very sweet man. I'm just happy to have a gig, man.
Well, and I'm glad
it's a tough time for the music business. I'm very happy to be working.
I'm glad you do, and I'm glad you are. The new album Transition comes out next month. Thanks so much for taking the time. Looking forward to hearing you get out there and play the new album and seeing Toto and Ringo and everybody else.
Yeah, I'll be everywhere. I'm like Mike Herpes. I'll go away and come back.
Have a good one, man.
Okay, bud. Bye.
Bye.